And we're back here in the Overwatch Beat Invitational Season 5, heading into our last first round match of the upper bracket. It's going to be Toronto Esports taking on GOATS, the last two teams we've seen to play here today. And I got to say here, GOATS, you want to talk about a team that has transcended their very name? Well, that'd be GOATS.
Well, I mean, they have Boost you on this lineup, so I'm hoping that maybe we won't see GOATs CP. And Toronto, looking at their lineup as well, these players are incredibly good. I'm expecting Toronto to be the favorites by far. And so maybe you don't want to run a GOATs composition where your mistakes can get exposed very quickly and capitalized on.
You know, everything you said is incredibly logical and makes a lot of sense, but
GOATs.
you've also suggested a timeline where GOATs doesn't run GOATs.
Yeah.
Which probably will happen, but man, if GOATs
Knowing
actually
you,
just...
that doesn't work.
Look, man, I'm going to respect this more if GOATs runs in and just decides to run GOATs the entire time. Be like, yeah, what do you expect? Our name is GOATs. We actually defined it. And don't forget, they did do this at the last Beat Invitational to phenomenal success. So, but of course, it is a very changed roster. A lot of different pieces. Gator, of course, no longer with them. So, we'll see how things go.
Well, losing their main tank is not going to be that much of a problem. Instead, you have Nomi in your squad, which certainly has seen his way around the scene. He's been around for a bit, playing in the Overwatch League even. So, Nomi, a very good Reinhardt himself. Maybe he can carry on Gator's legacy. Remains to be seen as we're heading into Lijiang Tower, which we've seen a lot of ghosts on so far.
And I have to give a lot of respect to Nomi here for staying on the grind. I know, obviously, like, look, if you're an Overwatch League and then suddenly you end up in a world where you're not an Overwatch League and you don't get an offer to another team, I do think there's a lot of players that would just say, you know what, I'm going to go straight into coaching. I've had enough. I actually truly, from the bottom of my heart, respect a player that says, you know what, I'm going to come back in stronger. I'm going to grind my way back in. I think this was a mistake. Watch me dominate, and I'll be back. So, it truly, like, not memeing, like, no joking. A lot of props here to Nomi for coming back.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, I've sort of been in that position before where you're let down and you have to move on and still grind your way and prove that you really have the work ethic to compete. And that's extra tough when you're a player like Nomi who's seen the highest of highs. You participated in the Overwatch League, you played and got wins in the highest quality of play, and then all of a sudden you're demoted and now you're struggling, trying to find a contenders team, etc. And so all kinds of credit to Nomi for sticking to this grind and trying to make a name for himself. And I'm hoping he gets back to Overwatch League one day because he really deserves it after the work ethic he displays here.
No doubt about it. Now that we've gotten the serious talk out of the way, I just want to bring out the real stuff, which is GOATS is running GOATS. GOATS is running GOATS!
Well, it's in his control center, so home advantage perhaps, yet to be seen. Deacon, though, had a really good World Cup run for Norway, so Deacon not going to let Nomi slip.
And Nomi going to get hit by the Bionade early on. When your Reinhardt can't get healed, that's time to start backing on up. But the purple is gone. Nomi's ready to go back in. GOATS, running GOATS, directly in the Toronto Esports. Both teams trying out a lot of damage here. GOATS ending up on the raw end of it. It's good Bionade after good Bionade from Dino. That's what caused the difference. That's why Nomi wasn't healed up, and that's exactly why Toronto Esports is taking first control.
Deacon even uses the Earth Shatter there, and that might be a bit too much. They already had a few pugs. We're just looking to clean up. And going into this next fight, you're going to see both squads having that non-boost up. Of course, you're playing the GOATs, that's how it works. But asking, can he get this Graviton Surge up and capitalize off this positional advantage in the choke point?
And we'll see. He doesn't have it up here just yet. Boostio again, drop the grab first. They're looking for the tank front line. Nice Bionade, though. Not only hits Nomi, but hits the friendly tanks as well. Dino on absolute fire here as Deacon. Okay, Deacon, time to ready it a bit, buddy. Time to come back. That's a spawn door.
But this is what I mean, right? Deacon had a very good displaying for Norway in the World Cup, and he is a very good tank. Playing for Toronto Esports here. Used to play for last night, Leftovers. So this is a guy who knows his way around Reinhardt, and he's really showing GOATS what it's all about.
Nomi, though. Earth Shatter. Down. Oh, use of the Diva. It's so big. Hui gets 3 on the backhand side. Nomi goes, yeah, that's a little bit taste of the OWL side of things here. Yep. Thank you very much. The point is ours.
It's exactly what you need as well. Just using your ultimates to their peak potential. You use the Diva Self-Destruct and the Reinhardt Earth Shatter. You get a Brigitte stun in as well to set up Nomi, and that's a fight won. So now they are not capitalizing on this positional advantage. They're backing off to the point, waiting for a good setup, trying to get Boostio into a position where he can use his Graviton Surge correctly in this choke point.
And the goal here for Boostio is get a good grab, don't donate it into Matrix, and he does get the good grab, somehow not Eden, 4 people in, and everyone on the way out. A first-class ticket back to spawn. That's the grab you needed.
And when you're in a position like that, I understand Decod. He wants to use his Earth Shatter to try to make a play, to make something happen. But instead, it's in vain. He doesn't get the picks required. Boostio wins the fight, but now they're going into the next fight. And suddenly Toronto are in a good position to actually win this next one.
Asking, grab up, grab connects, not Eden, everyone together, and Toronto says, let's bring this back the other way. Off the grab, it's going to be Toronto easily moving back over. They're going to retake the point, and that's going to even things all up.
Yeah, nature of the composition. You're playing GOATs, you have ultimates up, it's all about execution, and Toronto Esports certainly didn't disappoint with the execution in that fight. You get a good Graviton and a good self-destruct, and suddenly you get the point back. And now they're pushing forward, trying to find more picks, but a nano boost onto Nagas, that's going to give them a lot of room.
Well, they have a nano boost on the Decod, so one hammer meets Mace, and the hammer gonna take it in the end. The master is still the master. The student has not yet surpassed, and Toronto able to win the fight. And now with only 10% left, I'm not even sure you can hit the point here.
Yeah, Nomi is trying to make a run for it, using his charge as well. Oh, and 10 seconds left on the Lucio. He can't contest. It's all down to Hugi on the Diva on the point. Nomi's gonna rush in, has Earth Shatter up, uses it, doesn't find anyone. And Toronto Esports, they're still on the backside.
Yeah, Toronto wasn't able to get the most of it. Decod was all in and just trying to stop people getting onto the point. It doesn't quite work. Goats is able to touch it. They've recontested, and now they have a real chance of taking this one.
Oh, absolutely. But they don't have any ultimates up whatsoever. Neither does Toronto Esports. They have to have a sound barrier. They're going to get the nano boost up, and so they have a slight advantage going into this fight. But it's going to be tough for this squad on the defensive side.
You gotta look towards Asking right now. He might build up a grab midway fight. Barrier up, Toronto using it to bully the opposition. Make more room. 96% towards Asking and counting. They're gonna have a grab self-destruct at the ready. Grab ready for Asking. Doesn't donate it. Connects effectively. Self-destruct to the back. Nomi out of the fight. Decod boosted, moving in. And again, you got that for Gita versus Reinhardt boost v boost battle, but Toronto has way too many people on the point, and Goats getting out-goated here, thrown back as Toronto on the verge of taking round 1.
Yeah, and as I said, because you have a slight ultimate advantage, that's going to make all the difference in this final fight. Decod celebratory charge onto Tensa, and he really showed his aggression throughout that control center point, where he even pushed into the spawn of Ghosts, and Nomi had a tough time dealing with it, but despite Decod's aggression, we saw a lot of composure coming out of the GOAT squad, where they did execute perfectly in some of these fights. But we have to give some credit for Decod, charging, showing some aggression, and really paving the way for a Toronto Esports victory on Control Center.
Oh, no doubt about it, especially with Decod, where again, I have to think that coming from a player point of view, you want to prove that, hey, I'm still good at this, and Decod no longer an LNL, was a big part of that LNL team, wants to say, you know what, I still want to compete here, and he might get his chance for some vengeance here in this very tournament.
Well, this is a bit of a stacked roster on the side of Toronto Esports. A lot of good potential brought into one place, with Kraken lacking on this Diva and Asking on the Hanzo, which we've seen in Contenders Europe. So I'm excited to see how this team does moving forward.
Toronto going to be running the Sombra Hanzo here, Asking, wow, again, Dino purples everyone the other side. When you bio day, just see a sea of, well, we're not getting healed. That's going to be a good fight. Look at his ult charge here, reinforced. Yeah. 60, 70%.
I'm
this
pretty
man's
sure
a madman.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has like 5 people with that biotic grenade, but especially given that all the characters on the side of Ghosts are so weak, they're only 200 HP. Hitting a biotic grenade, you just need a shot or two to bring them down. And now Boostio gets picked off as well by Asking. We know how good Asking is on this Hanzo, and it's just proving over and over, finding these picks is a madman.
So good coming from Asking. By the way, Dino got trolled. He was going to potentially have another good nade there, and his Winston, Decod, got in his way. So Winston's gigantic backside blocked his bio nade. Let's just be clear.
And now we're going into goats. Goats for the goats.
Oh, again, Dino dropping the nade on the back. Now, that was a little bit early, but he's going to have it back up for the next fight. I've actually hit the point where I just want to see Dino's nades at all point because he's been so good at it so far. Nano boost, going to be going on the Winston, drops the nade, and again, they're just trying to isolate Nomi there. Nomi going to get booped on off, couldn't get supported, and Toronto in such firm control. Dino sleeps the Brig, and this is looking so good for Toronto right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned this before, earlier in the broadcast, that when you swap to goats, you don't have any ultimate charge whatsoever. It's going to be very hard to take these fights, and Toronto Esports easily gets rid of goats in that first fight, and so we're looking at one final fight perhaps where goats can really make one final stand, but they only have the Transcendence up for now, and it's looking rough. CP, I'm not gonna lie.
And they got to run into Nero here, where I got news for you. Here's the Nostradamus report on how it's going down. EMP, Bionade, goodbye. Nero holding in the backline right now, waiting, stalking, waiting, and waits for the Transcendence, moves in, drops EMP anyway, says, screw it, let's go. And you see Toronto with the sound barrier. Nomi, again, hit with the Bionade, can't get healed right now, in a lot of trouble. Still up, still alive with basically no HP. No one was able to finish him off. But it's still a tough spot here for the offense of GOATs, and now finally is going to go the way of Toronto.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you play this Zenyatta. You don't have a lot of sustain. Trying to make this final stand, Naga and Nomi, but it doesn't look like they're going to win it eventually. I do understand the Zenyatta pick. It is very good against other compositions due to the Discord door, but you need a lot of sustain when you're facing these anti-GOATs compositions that Toronto Esports are running, and as such, it's an easy win for Toronto Esports, let's be blunt, winning both the Control Center and Garden.
No doubt about it. This man, of course, a big part of it. DCOD was pretty much flawless throughout most of the game, but you got to talk about who was supporting him and making it happen. Yeah. Dino was on fire, and look, man, this could actually qualify as a new Jurassic Park movie for me. Both better script and better production value. It was great.
Oh, absolutely, and it makes me think a bit about a tweet that we saw from Dogman the other day, that if you want to be recognized in the Tier 2 scene in contenders as a flex support player, you need to hit these aggressive plays, find picks and big nades, and certainly we see here that Dino is starting to make a name for himself on this Ana already, one map in, because of these huge spider grenades. So, you know, this could be the starting point for maybe Dino snowballing into the Overwatch League, making a name for himself. Certainly, we'll see those highlights back on Reddit, CP.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, again, it comes down to, look, man, GOATs, you could have renamed them to Purple, because that's how often they were just hit by Bionades the entire time, where Nomi, to his credit, I mean, had pretty good positioning most of the time, but how many times have we seen Nomi just go, I guess I'm backing up now. I have somehow been hit by a Bionade. I don't know how I got over my shield. It happened. I'm dying. Time to back out. And it was just so much control coming out from your Ana player that it was just very difficult. And okay, this is not something I would have expected. GOATs, a team that likes running GOATs, wouldn't you think they would want to bring it to King's Row? In theory, doesn't that make a lot of sense?
It makes a lot of sense unless you're really scared of any potential Sombra and Doomfist comps, which I don't know if asking is the best Doomfist in the world to make up for Nero's Sombra. But they're going to play it safe, I like to believe, and play Hollywood instead. We've seen some GOATs on this map earlier in the day. But it just comes down to what Toronto Esports up to pick themselves to counter that.
Now I will say here is that all that makes sense. And maybe
I like making sense,
plan, but
it's my job.
Yes, yes. But how would you feel? How mind blown would you be if GOATs comes in here and they run GOATs on Hollywood when they could have picked King's Row? I'm just...
Yeah, well, I would be slightly disappointed because, you know, you want to play the game optimally. You want to play the best compositions on every map, of course. And I don't think GOAT is necessarily the best comp anymore. I think we've seen that this comp it works, but it's slightly outdated at this point. And teams have learned how to play around it. And Toronto Esports, we're talking about these guys as a team that has a lot of high potential with superstars like Decode, Asking, and now Dino as well. And so if GOATs decide to run GOATs, I think we're up for a quick 2-0 here for Toronto.
Definitely wouldn't surprise me. Although this is where it is worth noting that Goats, I'm seeing my memory hopefully is not failing me here, but the last Beat Invitational, before they made their incredible run, they did get knocked down the first round. Like they got trounced, and then they came back with the Goats comp and did well.
Well, as an
Obviously, different
analyst,
team.
that's not a viable strategy, but I
Are,
do
are you
appreciate
sure?
the conspiracy theory.
Are you sure that the rope-a-dope, the debate is not the optimal strategy? No, I'm not saying that obviously they want to go down that, but it is the. I'm just saying that the team has had eerie comebacks before, but it was a different age, it was a different time. It was before people knew Goats as Goats, so
Well,
I'm not sure they could repeat that feat.
No, you lose some pressure going down to the loser bracket, I like to imagine, because now it's easier for an underdog story, so to speak, and everyone loves an underdog story. And so maybe if you get demoted to the lower bracket round, you still have chances for a lot of upsets.
No doubt. Well, we're going to have Goats here on the defense, and okay. Real. I don't know what to make of this. Help.
Well, the Torbjorn is on the cafe. Wavy
Yes,
is
go
moving
on.
around. I'm looking for him to actually stay on this cafe. Look, I've tuned into the Beat Invitational in the past, CP. I've seen you do the Goose Gamers Cup. I refuse to believe he picks this hero until the game starts, but it's 5 seconds remaining, and Wavy is suddenly setting up the turret.
Okay, it's not just the Torb. We got Junkrat Soldier here as well.
Well,
it's solo support.
Hey,
it's
man.
only the Ana.
Well, Soldier can heal, okay? So we're looking at Boostio with the silver medal for healing on this map so far. It is a lot of damage. So if you're on the side of Goats, you're going to have on the side of Toronto Esports, you're going to have a tough time dealing with all of this damage output.
Well, Goats defined an unconventional comp at the time with the original Goats comp. What if this is Goats 2.0? What if we're mind blown right now going, we don't know what we're seeing? What if this full holds?
Well, then the
Goats
team would have
2.0.
to rename to Goats 2.0, and so it wouldn't really work, would it? Ghost and Ghost 2.0? Nah, not on board.
Yeah. Goats 2.0, Goats return, Electric Boogaloo, turret is down. I'm not sure what's going on. Everyone is purple again. Dino just laying in the Bionade to the cafe. Nero taking down Naga, and yeah, I don't know if this is quite exactly the way that Goats 2.0 was envisioning their reign of glory. Everyone in the cafe is falling, Nero getting everything he wants, and that is that. The most ambitious defense of our time has fallen.
Yeah. Well, if you're playing that composition, as I said, you have a lot of damage output, and you can find a lot of picks onto maybe perhaps Nero or Dino or Swimmer, or even Asking. But the way Krakenlaken and Decod are playing, they recognize that there's less threats for them on the point, and so they can apply more point pressure, and they just take advantage of that. This Toronto Esports team is a really good team, and so you can't really underestimate any player in any role.
Boostio gonna try and bring this back here on the Widow. Oh, almost deflects right back into himself like it wasn't a headshot. Toronto just rolling here. They easily deal with the Sombra. Boostio, again, just kind of off on his own. It's not a pub game here. It says you have a Winston in your face, and Toronto's just doing whatever they want right now.
Yeah, they are doing whatever they want. They have set up on the high ground here with Nero on the Genji. Decod is way back, somewhere on the other side of the map, making enormous, huge amount of space. And we actually have some of Ghost trying to chase him down, but that just means that this payload is going to push forward so fast that they might actually cap the point.
Decod made so much space, he went to the enemy's final spawn while they're still in their second spawn. That's sort of, I don't know what you call that. That's like
it's called getting ahead of yourself.
I think always like, why are they not spawning here? Oh wait, they don't spawn here yet. That makes sense. Krakenlaken under so much pressure, but gets healed back up. Not gonna fall here just yet. Still getting healed as meanwhile the rest of Toronto dives on in. 3 uncontested pickoffs, and this has been strange in Pandemonium, but it has been Toronto Esports dominating.
Yeah, and I like this comp coming out for them as well, because playing a Hanzo, that forces Ghost to deal with the sniper, but it also, they put so much pressure onto the tanks of Ghost, because Hanzo has this ability that's so great. Storm arrows, slipped my mind. So great to deal with Nomi and Hui on these tanks, but it's also a threat towards Boostio on the Widowmaker, and so it's a very versatile composition coming out of on the side of Toronto Esports.
Boostio right now, though, is channeling some serious power. Off his pickoffs, Goats is able to get more of a reset here. Takes down Asking. This is what you need to climb in ladder, by the way. You want to get to high top 500. You need to imagine the rest of your team is feeding, and it's all on you as Widow to pull it back. And so far, Boostio's been doing that.
Just kill them, forehead. Expert analysis.
Click.
Your
Click heads, forehead. It's fine.
Exactly. But now we're in a different scenario. We're asking swap to the Widowmaker, and he's going to try to contest Boostio as much as possible. Nero has the Dragon Blade, and they can combo it with Dino's Nano Boost. But given that Hollywood point B is so wide open, it's going to be hard for Nero at all to get kills in rapid succession. But here he goes.
Laid out, finds Boostio. That's one way of putting down the ladder hero there. Nero moving on in, looking for a bit of a Diva D mech. Hui gonna be losing that war mech. No self-destruct this time. And Toronto makes it look easy and just a well-executed blade by Nero.
Sure. And credit to Decode there as well. He activates the Primal Rage to put pressure onto the backline before Nero even goes in. They're going to clean up here. Goats caught in a bad spawn situation. More ultimate charge.
Oh my god! Dino just dumpstered Naga in the back. That wasn't even close. This man does it all. Heals his team, takes down the Tracers. Why not?
It really just keeps the snowball momentum rolling now as well for Toronto Esports, where Decode is just not letting these supports on the side of Goats do anything at all. We have the Transcendence up, we have the Nano Boost up, but can they really execute this dive? You don't have a speed boost, and so Nomi and Naga really have to be on the same page.
Oh, Dino not able to heal Asking time. Use the Bionade for nothing. Asking though, gonna get Rez back up. Heavy dive coming in here from the defensive Goats. Toronto, for the most part, able to back on out of that. The self-destruct mostly mitigated. Dino under pressure. Again, the Bionade on the Nomi. He's really focusing on the tanks, and then they go in and dive and try to deal with Nomi. But he has the Primal in tow, not actually in a whole lot of danger. But overall, Toronto, they've been letting the shots go on them, and now they're ready to re-engage. Nero with the blade ready.
Yeah, Nero with the blade ready, and they're playing so patient. They're just trying to execute these dives perfectly. And going to this next fight, they're going to do just that. Here comes the blade out, and despite the Transcendence, finds a pick Tensa.
He got in before the Transcendence could even go there. Not that would have mattered anyways. Deals with it despite getting slept. And Toronto, even with a nice sleep coming out from Tensa, simply not enough here. But they have enough disruption back in the payload. I don't know if Toronto's going to get quite as much from this as they would want. Defender's advantage starts playing a role, and Nero actually needs a little bit of healing here. He's in danger, but goes back to point, gets healed up, and Toronto's going to push their luck.
And actually, Goats with a pretty serviceable hold there, and now they have the Dragon Blade off themselves. Naga's going to pub it, not going to get a lot of value out of it though. But Nomi with the Primal Rage and Tensa with the Nano Boost might turn this fight.
Yeah, it's working out for them. Naga was able to make enough. Rui with the self-destruct, and slowly but surely, Goats has bought time in this matchup. They bought more than expected on point B. They're buying more than expected in point C, and this is starting to get a little bit dangerous for Toronto.
It's getting a bit dangerous, but again, they're so patient, so I rely on them to execute these fights perfectly. Once again, we see Ghost just cleaning up. Great Nano Boost onto Nomi. Getting 2 kills, that's all you need. Back up and go again. But there's no ultimates on the side of Ghost this time. Only Nomi with the Primal Rage. And so this is going to be tough. Going against the Reinhardt composition this time from Toronto Esports.
I think the dream here for Asking would be somehow land a max value dead on Nomi. Not super likely, but if he goes in a Primal and doesn't watch where he's at, could be a thing. Asking under pressure here though, early on. Defense again, looking for his Boostio, blows up Crack-a-Lack, and continual hero plays coming up for Boostio, and I have to say, it's been Boostio that's bought a lot of time.
And
goes a little bit
this is where you really see an experience shine. We are going to see a Nano Blade coming up from Nero. He might win this fight. He gets slept again!
Sleeping on the job, but the rest of the fight is so well for Toronto that it doesn't really matter. Yeah, okay, you don't get the 2 extra pickups of the Nano Blade. You're still alive. You're not punished for it, and suddenly it's Goats in a real tough spot with 23 seconds left to go.
And I'm just amazed by the fact, yeah, they can delay this for sure. Nomi is coming in, he has the Primal Rage as well. Transcendence is going to be up, and so this is going to be the final fight with both teams having a great chance at taking this.
Here's a good side for Goats here, is that unless they just completely lose their mind or fully C9, they're not going to lose with time left on the clock. So it's still a pretty good defense in the end. Nomi, doesn't really matter, they get it with the Bionade, still finds Nero. Wavy, gonna use Transcendence. We are in overtime, but it gets even better for the Goats. It's not even gonna be a take here for NRG. NRG started with wild momentum and simply fell short. And I gotta say, the hero plays coming out from the DPS on Goats were quite good towards the end, and gotta give credit where credit's due. Boostio, Widow, bot time on point B, bot time is Tracer on point C, kept Goats in the game.
Yeah, and I don't know what to say, CP. You're playing point C on Hollywood versus Genji Tracer, and you don't swap Brigitte. It's not 2017 or 2016 anymore. Asking on the McCree, Nero on the Genji, and just refusing to swap to Brigitte. It's just poor discipline, I'd like to say, because regardless, you can't make an argument for being a bad Brigitte, you know? So where was the Brigitte act when you're facing a Genji Tracer comp?
What I would say here is that let's come up with alternate explanations. If we want to think back to history, where there have been hunger strikes to protest things that you do not like, maybe that this is some sort of gameplay-related Brigitte hunger strike, where we will not play Brigitte until certain things are met. Jeff Kaplan, here are demands. Watch us lose Overwatch games, and it's your fault.
But if
I don't know. That's the best excuse I have.
If you go on a hunger strike, CP, it's a risk of you dying, and certainly we're seeing here in their own Brigitte strike, they're on the verge of losing. So do not recommend that way of making a stand.
It's not a great idea. Also, food is great. Playing Brigitte, you know, it's debatable where you stand, but it is great for winning.
Yeah, let's call it a draw.
Call it a draw. Go again. But it's gonna be Goats here on the offense. Not running Goats, instead running Sombra. Nope. Swap it to the Pharah.
Yeah, there we go. They recognize the fact that Decode is playing the Orisa. There's going to be a lot of shield on the defensive side of Toronto Esports, and you swap to the Pharah, and you have the Hanzo, and they're just going to poke the shield down of Decode and try to find picks onto Dino or Swimmer or even Asking.
Ooh, nice angle from Naga. Rockets going in. Almost gets an early pickoff. Heavy damage. Already at 40%. Almost gets the Mercy. This is really nice Pharah setup coming in from Naga here so far. The defense of Toronto stuck in the cafe. Under heavy pressure where they can't easily head on out. They're stuck in there still. Nero hasn't been able to get much off the Junkrat here. You take a look at Naga. He's at 74%. Nero back down at 50. The pressure from Goats unrelenting, but they haven't gotten a tick here so far, so they can't get cocky as Asking is able to shoot Naga out of the sky, and suddenly things are looking way better for Toronto.
Yeah, you lose a ton of damage there. Asking is still going to be a threat, but still, you have so much healing and so much shield going up against it. Asking going to use the Nanovisor just to secure the fight. Unless Nomi wants to punch him away, but that's not going to be the case. Cleans up Tensa, use the self-destruct for good measure, or poor measure. One way to put it.
I'd love to see this here. We haven't really touched on it much, but Soldier's better now. He's a lot better. He's way easier to track with, and Asking showing you why. I mean, let's forget the tack visor. We're not going to go down the old beautiful tracking meme, but look at his tracking when not in tack visor. That's good stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you love this change as well. You're hyped to see Dafran potentially using it on his stream, etc. So this is certainly a big boost for Soldier 76, and when you're boosted by a Mercy, there's so much damage output that Naga's going to have a hard time on this Pharah.
Naga under heavy pressure here and can't really do much about it. Asko is behind the Orisa shield, but now gonna have to reposition. Heavy dive coming in here from the Goats, but here comes a Riptire, ready to go, takes down Hui. Hui though got two! Revenge from the grave, and this fight still anyone's here. Nomi making space at the point. Bubble though gonna fail, and Asking, again, not really being dealt with as he gets free damage on the side. Likely gonna have a visor up from the next fight.
They're just not finding the picks necessary here, Goats. So you're playing the Hanzo, so it's, you know, a pseudo sniper in many ways, and if you can get a pick onto Dino or Swimmer to make these fights a lot easier, that's what you really need to do. Naga is having a tough time on this Pharah because despite the fact they're spamming down the shield, a lot of his damage gets negated. Booster going to get picked by Dino, who decides to frag out, and then Asking follows. This is looking like a big yikes to me, CP.
Well, the yikes right now is that you have a Soldier in the cafe. He's angry. He only bought a latte earlier in the day, and he's not leaving. And so far, there hasn't been a real solution for Goats to get him on out of there.
Yeah, but this is the comp you should play, right? If this is the way you want to get rid of the Orisa shield, it certainly is viable, and we've seen teams do it in the past. We're just not seeing the picks required so far, and Nomi is struggling on this point, trying to apply point pressure.
The barrage is ready, but Asking on the flank gets boosted immediately, looking for Naga. Here comes the Nano Boost. Let's pile it on. Nano Boost, or Attack Visor gone. Still looking for the Mercy. Asking continually moving forward. And And gonna turn the corner. Why not?
Yeah.
Throw the Helix rocket into prayer.
You're playing behind an Orisa shield, and you're giving to give some openings for the side of Ghost to get picks eventually, but instead asking takes matters into his own hands, decides he does not want to stay passive, and instead goes aggressive with the nano boost and the visor, and that's going to result in a few picks, and suddenly you already won the fight, despite not having to drag it out.
Asking again, gonna get Dove on the team though, well in support of him the entire time, and he's just laying in this consistent damage right now. Toronto, not even phased by this early dive in. Meanwhile though, they do have to be aware of the barrage. Naga gonna drop the barrage, is immediately bopped, forced the issue, countered by the Diva right in his face, and Narrow and Asking coming back in. Here comes the tire, put a dagger in their hearts because they might be done. The Goats are back in the barn, as we're gonna be seeing Toronto Esports show why they have the support, why they're a great team. They take the series with a fairly quick 2-0.
And this is my prediction on the desk, as it were, would have been Toronto Esports going into the matchup, and I think they certainly showed why here on this map, why they are so good. Decod did a lot of good work, as well as Asking on that Soldier, especially on that defense, so very impressed by this Toronto squad.
Yeah, I would say you take a look at the Toronto squad across the board. They have the tools that you need for a complete team where, look, what do you want? Do you want a good main tank? Decod, playing very well. Do you want a support that's making crazy plays and saving people at the right times? Just applying pressure to enemies at the right time, being able to be basically self-reliant? Well, Dino doing that and more. Toronto was in peak form here across all facets of Overwatch play.
Absolutely, but they still have a chance in the lower bracket to bring it back, Goats, that is. But really, yeah, Dino is the shining star. He probably was the MVP of that game. So I'm really surprised by this man showing how good he is for this Toronto squad.
And the interesting thing there too, I mean, Dino just being that good is that you think about supports, it's one of the things that's very much in demand even by OWL teams. And, you know, it would be a little bit crazy with Dino not having a huge history at even contenders level play to make the jump. And this is like super speculative, but man, if he can continue to do that all tournament long, that's going to get some people looking, even as, you know, not every team is fully done yet. So I think that would actually be one of the craziest stories. And look, are we overhyping things? Maybe a little, but his play was awesome. I really want to see more.
Yeah, and we're talking about mid-season pickups as well for the Overwatch League. And if Dino starts making a name for himself here, and then the next contender season, suddenly you're in a position where your teams want to pick you up. And so it is a quick path to pro in many ways here in Overwatch.
Yep, and you know, sometimes that path is something you can forge yourself. But guys, we still got tons of Overwatch left for you here today. That was Series 4, but we still got 2 more to go. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss it.